Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, June 6th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. This is our land use meeting. Our regular meeting was this morning at 9 a.m. And with that, we will begin with item number 1.
Item number 1 is staff emergency items, and I am unaware of any today.
Item 2.
Item number 2 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. We do have a few changes to the agenda today. The first is that commissioner comments from the 9 o'clock meeting will be heard immediately following item number 4. And item number 4A will be heard under item number 5, called up consent calendar. And our next meeting will be next Tuesday, June 13th at 9 o'clock a.m. at Lewis Palmer High School in Monument.
Excellent, thank you. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. This is the public's opportunity to comment on an item that is not currently scheduled on the agenda today. And Madam Chair, I only had people sign in for specific items on the agenda so far.
Okay. So we're on item number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on an item that's not already on the called up consent calendar? Okay, any online? Okay, hearing none. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is the land use consent calendar. And Madam Chair, I do actually see another citizen here to speak on item number 4B. So I believe we might want to exclude that from the consent calendar vote and just make it item number 4C.
Okay, and before I do that, Commissioner Williams is not present today, so I do need a motion to excuse her.
I move to excuse Commissioner Williams.
I'll second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 to excuse Commissioner Williams. And so item number 4, as our clerk read, should be inclusive of items 4C, just 4C. Is there anyone in the public wishing to speak on item 4C? Any online? Okay. Any comments or an motion from up here?
Just a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I thought I heard that 4A was going to called up. Is 4B going to called up, or did I miss something?
4B is also going to
Oh,
called
okay.
up.
All right. Didn't realize that. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the consent calendar, which is only 4C at this point?
Move approval of item 4C.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 with Commissioner Williams excused. And so we will go at this point to commissioner comments, which was a carryover from this morning's 9 a.m. meeting. Commissioner Vanderwerf, we'll start with you.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, just a personal note, but it's something that I've been involved in for over a decade. My church will be holding its Feast of St. Arnold Day this Saturday. It is a beer festival. I think it's a lot of fun for a church to hold a beer festival, but since it's been running now for 13 years, it's actually the largest beer festival now in El Paso County in the city of Colorado Springs. And it raises money for charities. Most of the funds go to West Side Cares, which is a charity on the west side of El Paso County in the old Colorado City area. And they do a lot of great work for the community, helping people get through some tough times in their lives. So this beer festival is this Saturday from 11 o'clock to 5. And I'm a volunteer and will be helping out. And I hope that I'll see a lot of my colleagues and friends there. Also, I would just want to express my appreciation to the federal government, to the administration, and to Congress for agreeing to and signing into law an act to reduce spending. And of course, also as part of that is raising the debt ceiling. I think that does avert a crisis, and I believe it is a great start to reduce federal spending. Federal spending is way, way out of control. But I would encourage Congress to do more, Congress and the administration to do more. It is not enough, but it is a great start. So I support what took place, but I please ask them to do more. With regard to other things that I'll be doing, I will be at the Integris groundbreaking tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I know some of my colleagues will be there. I think our chair will be speaking at that event. And then look forward to the Small Business Development Center closing ceremony Thursday night at the Olympic Museum. This is Small Business Week, for those of you that don't know, and we celebrate small business, which is a wonderful thing to do. On Friday, I will be touring the Manitou Springs Carnegie Library. They've got some challenges they have there with wheelchair access, and they're going to show me what some of those challenges are, so I look forward to that. And then Monday next week, I will be participating in my state board, the Homeland Security Advisory Committee meeting. That's at 10 o'clock on Monday. And then perhaps it'll be announced by our chair as well. But on Monday night, if I have my calendar correct, we'll have our next redistricting meeting at Lewis Palmer High School, and that will be at 5:30 on Monday the 12th. I would encourage citizens to participate in that. It's an important process, and I hope to see many of you there. And those are my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I just wanted to congratulate, we just came back from the mayor's swearing in, so congratulate Mayor Yemi Mobolade on doing his swearing in this morning. Other things this week, we do have, again, I will be attending the small business closing ceremony as well, the Small Business Week. And I did want to comment, last week had a great CCI conference, statewide conference, got a lot of good things done on behalf of the El Paso County in collaboration with our statewide partners, different counties up there. Also want to congratulate the class of 23 from the Air Force Academy, which graduated last week as well. I did want to highlight that I do think President Biden missed a opportunity to highlight what everybody knows, and that Space Command, not Space Force, as another person mentioned earlier today. Space Command definitely should be here in Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and a missed opportunity for the president to do the right thing and announce that Space Command should be staying here where it belongs. And let's see, anything else? I think that's all I have.
Commissioner Geithner.
Okay, I'll be brief, but a couple of things that are going on, including the Western Heritage Token presentation in the morning. So honored to take place or to participate in that. I also want to, in particular, mention again, even though I mentioned it earlier briefly, that Kite Fest is going to be happening at Falcon Regional Park on June 17th at 10 a.m. This is our second annual Kite Fest. Really excited to see folks out there. It's great that it happens on Father's Day weekend. It's a great opportunity to get out with your kids and fly a kite. And other than that, several constituent meetings and also visiting some of the small businesses in my district as we celebrate Small Business Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Geithner. It was indeed a busy week last week. My colleagues were all at Colorado Counties, Inc., and I was holding down the fort here. Among the things that I was able to do back here was join our partners at UCCS in dedicating an Olympians Among Us sculpture. And then I also still participated in the child welfare allocation meeting that was happening concurrently with the CCI conference as well. And the kickoff to Small Business Week, as you've heard my colleagues talk about, was continues all week. The kickoff was last week. And then Art on the Streets events also took place last week. I understand it's been 20 years of Art on the Streets here in Colorado Springs. I also had the opportunity to attend the celebration of a new flight, new direct flight in and out of the Colorado Springs Airport. It's one of particular interest to me as it will be going straight where my parents are to Atlanta. But I was excited that, our airport continues to grow and serve the needs of all of those that want to come and visit our lovely place and have a direct way to get here. I think that's one of 3 announcements within a period of about 2 weeks of direct flights coming to the Colorado Springs Airport. And then also wanted to congratulate our new mayor, Yemi Mobolade. I will be attending an event this evening where, to start off on his very first day, he is bringing elected officials, state and local, from all jurisdictions together to really just collaborate with us. So looking forward to being a part of that. I will be speaking at the Integris opening, and then I will be attending the Urban Land Institute event on Thursday, and that is vis-a-vis my involvement on the Urban Renewal Authority Board. And then I will be joining our Department of Human Services in a volunteer event for Care and Share food distribution on Friday. And then just to highlight, our clerk read when our next meeting is. It is officially next Tuesday of the Board of County Commissioners, but that will be taking place at Lewis Palmer High School as a part of our Commissioners on the Road program. So it will be taking place in Commissioner District 1 at Lewis Palmer High School at our regular time, 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And then separate from that, there is also a redistricting meeting the night prior on Monday evening. All right. With that, let's move to item number 5.
Item number 5 is the called up consent calendar, and we have 2 items called up today. The first is item number 4A, Final Plat Latigo Trails Filing Number 9, a request by Drexel Barrel & Co. for approval of a final plat to create 39 single-family residential lots. The 106-acre parcel is zoned RR 2.5 residential rural and is located 3/4 of a mile west of Eastonville Road, 1 mile east of Meridian Road, and 1 mile south of Latigo Boulevard. The Board of County Commissioners approved a 247-lot preliminary plan on November 2nd, 2001. At the time of the approval, the preliminary plan's proposed water was found not sufficient in terms of quality, quantity, and dependability. The current final plat request was found to have been sufficient in terms of water quality, quantity, and dependability by the El Paso County Attorney's Office and the state of Colorado. The item was heard as a consent item by the Planning Commission and was recommended for approval 7-0 with questions regarding water sufficiency. SF 21-036, parcel number 42000000345, Commissioner District Number 2, Kylie Bagley, Planner 2, Planning and Community Development.
Thank you. And given that this item was pulled from the consent calendar, we will go through a full land use hearing process. And that begins with the staff introduction and a review of the criteria.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kylie Bagley with El Paso County Planning and Community Development. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up. I'll be presenting on file number SF 2136, which is Latigo Trails filing number 9. Gilbert LaForce was the engineer on the project, if you have any questions for him as we move through our presentation. If there's any public input and you're watching remotely, please provide your name and a reliable phone number to pcdhearings@elpasoco.com. In front of you is the criteria of approval for a final plat. Chair, would you like me to read this, have this read in for the record, or would you just like to have this in front of you to read?
Let's just ensure that the commissioners have the chance to review this, and then at the end, we'll have you put it back up if that's okay.
Okay.
We good to move on?
So just a brief overview from the Planning Commission. The application was heard on the May 4th, 2023 Planning Commission hearing. It was a called up consent agenda item. At that hearing, one neighbor did speak in opposition to the project due to concern for water sufficiency with the creation of the proposed subdivision. The application was unanimously recommended for approval with a 7-0 vote. We have received additional opposition today, and you did receive that prior to your hearing. So the application is a request by Drexel Barrel & Co. for approval of a final plat to create 39 single-family residential lots. The 106-acre parcel is zoned RR 2.5, residential rural. All the proposed lots in the subdivision will be 2.5 acres or greater and meet the criteria of the RR 2.5 zoning district. The proposal is consistent with the approved preliminary plan, which was file number SP 01011. You can see right here, this is Latigo Trails filing number 9. It is surrounded by residential properties. These are zoned RR 2.5, and then down here is PUD zoning district. As part of our review criteria, we do send applications out to outside agencies. So I did just grab a few screenshots. One is from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. The other one is Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And then the last one is from CGS. And it just states at this time that there were no the U.S. Fish and Wildlife states that they reviewed the proposed subdivision, and at this time, there's no impact to the species that are found in that area. Colorado Parks and Wildlife did attach some additional information for the subdivider here, just as far as how to protect any animals that are in the area. And then CGS commented on the project as well, talking about how it's consistent with their review. So the master plan place type, this is within the large lot residential place type. The recommended land use is a 2.5 single family detached residential with 2.5 acre lots or larger, excuse me. The area of change is undeveloped, so it does state that these areas will experience some redevelopment of select underutilized or vacant sites adjacent to other built out sites. I would like to invite Gilbert LaForce up to talk about transportation at this time.
Gilbert LaForce, Engineering. So the subdivision is going to result in about 0.8 miles of developer-constructed rural local roads that's going to be ultimately dedicated to the county for future ownership and maintenance. The 2016 Major Transportation Corridors Update identified improvements along Eastonville. And as part of this development, the developer will be contributing some escrow in the amount of this $165,000 for the future improvements onto Eastonville. And I know some of the citizen complaint that came in right now was regarding the end of the existing road on the west side and hoping to leave that as a cul-de-sac. And on the previous preliminary plan and even on the sketch plan that I've seen back in 1984, it was consistent that this was intended to continue on through this, what you're seeing right now as a configuration to provide that 2 points of access or closed loop, so that to allow for any for exiting of any vehicles in case any emergency happens. And if we do leave it as a cul-de-sac, then it exceeds the criteria for a cul-de-sac requirement that we have for the county for our engineering criteria manual. So at this point, I think this is the layout that it should be. Let's see. Drainage and erosion, the property is in the Geek Ranch drainage basin, which is unstudied with no drainage or bridge fees. The applicant is proposing 2 water quality and flood control detention for there to mitigate their impact. I've kind of shown it in the south west corner and southeast corner. The southwest corner is a new pond that they'll be constructing, and on the southeast corner, it's an existing pond that they're retrofitting to accommodate the additional flows for this with this development, and both of them are going to be owned and maintained by the Latigo Creek Metro District. And that's my portion of the presentation. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for staff?
Right.
So neighbors were notified as part of this final plat application. We did receive some opposition, and I believe there's some members in the audience here today that wish to speak on the project. The applicant is Drexel Barrel & Co. Tim McConnell is here to give a presentation as well.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move to the applicant presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Board of County Commissioners. Appreciate your time this morning, or this afternoon now, sorry. Just looking forward to trying to get this final plat approved. I think county staff have done a pretty good job covering most of the details. We're really here to answer questions primarily, but this is back up. A 39-lot, single-family residential plat. I say the plat is in compliance with, I say, the master plan, the sketch plan, the preliminary plan for the area, the zoning. It was planned, the Conestoga Trail South was planned to be extended in the future, was a long delay in continued development out there, but that is the plan at this point, and the layout is in compliance with all the prior noted plans for the area, and it does continue the loop Conestoga Trail over to Buffalo River Trail that Gilbert mentioned, because the existing cul-de-sac on Conestoga Trail South is well exceeds county criteria at this point. It's like 2,300 feet long with a dead end without a formal turnaround. It's just a gravel turnaround at this point in time where the road currently dead ends. Keep moving forward. Gilbert mentioned the detention ponds that are being accommodated for. Utility plan here. Plan is for all the lots to have on-site wastewater treatment systems, as the other lots to do, and then a central water system. Water will be provided, the actual wet water will be provided by Meridian Services Metropolitan District. They have the water, there's an IGA with Latigo, water rights for Latigo, groundwater rights were provided to Meridian Services Metropolitan District to provide for them treating the water and then delivering treated water back to Latigo, and that's where the water is. And I say there's been a finding of sufficiency for quantity, quality, everything else. The state has found that, as well as county attorney. So we believe we're in very good shape on that. As noted previously, there was, when the preliminary plan was approved back in 2001, there was a finding of insufficiency at that point in time. But at this point in time, there is sufficient water findings with the final plat application. Topo give you an idea where the drainage basins are in each end of the corner of the site, south, southeast, and southwest, to accommodate for full spectrum detention and water quality. And Kylie showed the site earlier, but this area is really kind of a transition zone between the higher density, smaller 6,000 square foot lots to the south and the 2.5 acre lots to the north. And like I said, anticipated as a transition zone and anticipated for 2.5 acre lot development going forward. And Gilbert has mentioned the traffic. Developer has agreed to pay the $165,000 noted for a pro rata share for Eastonville road improvements, even though we think that percentage of traffic is a little higher than we think it should be. The county was basing it on kind of more short-term traffic as opposed to long-term traffic, but that's the number that's been agreed upon. In addition to that, each of the lots will be paying the regular traffic county impact fee of about $3,800 going forward. So it's another $150,000 roughly that will be paid into the kitty for county roadway improvements. And I guess that's it, but we're basically here to answer any questions if you have any. I've got Bob Irwin, a developer, here with me today too. But be glad to answer any questions if you have any at this point in time or after the neighbors have a chance to ask any questions.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You may be the right person to ask this of, but I might not have, need to be the staff or whatever. But I think if I read in the documentation that this was, approval of this was sought after some time ago, and it was not accepted at the time for a lack of water sufficiency or lack of water quality. Is that true, or did I just read something incorrectly? And then it changed for this time because I'm reading that Meridian Service Metropolitan District is providing the water. So
Correct.
Is that the difference between the previous time and this time?
If it's the same one I'm thinking of, staff may be able to speak to that. But in 2001, when the preliminary plan was approved, there was a finding of, no finding of water sufficiency, quality, and quantity at that point in time. It was approved without that finding. So at this point, with the final plat, we do have those findings.
Okay, so it wasn't actually disapproved before.
Correct. It was approved.
It
without-
had those words, but what it meant was there was not a failure to have water availability. There just was no finding at the time.
Correct.
Got it.
To my knowledge,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Ms. Sego, did you have anything to add to that explanation?
Lori might.
I appreciate the question, Lori Sego, Senior Assistant County Attorney, because I have been whispering over here with staff to clarify what that meant, particularly since it's in our agenda wording. It would be very unusual for the board to make an actual finding of insufficiency and then approve a project. So the preliminary plan for this final plat was approved. It's my understanding that a water sufficiency finding was simply not made either way. It was not addressed. Staff is confirming whether or not that's accurate or not, but that is typically how we did it back then. Water sufficiency findings were deferred until final plat, until the law changed and we were able to do administrative final plats. Then folks have started pushing it back to preliminary plan. But it's my understanding, and hopefully staff can confirm that there was simply no finding made either way.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, let's move to the public input part of this public hearing. So are there any members of the public in support of this application?
I'm sorry, may I make a
Is there
further
further
comment,
staff
Madam Chair?
presentation?
So what we have found in the record is that in the staff report from the preliminary plan, the county attorney's office, who does water reviews, would recommend a finding of insufficiency just simply because they weren't far enough along in the process to make a finding of sufficiency. We cannot, however, can't find at this point the resolution, the board resolution, to determine whether the board actually made that finding or simply declined to address it. So that's where we're at. It's in the staff report with a recommendation of insufficiency. We don't know what the actual end result was.
Is there, and was that evidence of all of that was provided in 2001? And has
Correct.
anything changed between 2001 and now?
Yes,
And if so, I think that would be my question for the applicant, if we can
sure.
get them back down here. Tell us what has changed between 2001 and now that would indicate there is sufficiency.
Right, Tim McConnell, Drexel Burrell again. At that point in time, in 2001, they were, Latigo and Meridian Service Metropolitan District were in negotiations, kind of creating the IGA, transferring the water rights to Meridian Metropolitan Service District for them to treat the water and then deliver treated water back to Latigo. So all that wasn't finalized at the point in time when the preliminary plan was going through the process, thus the finding of insufficiency, but all that has been hammered out. There's water rights, quality, quantity, everything else is laid out in detail for this filing and hopefully the future filings going forward. But there are findings of sufficiency in quantity and quality at this point in time. If that explains it, but as I say, at that point in time, the negotiations were ongoing between the two districts to provide for that.
Please just
Bob Irwin.
introduce yourself.
I'm Bob Irwin, the developer. Actually, that is correct what he was saying, but to clarify, what was going on was not just that process, but they were perfecting the right through the state. And so there was a transfer of water rights from the owners, and that was a collection of water rights. At that point, there was a negotiation between the developer and the Metro District. And in that process, what was required was there had to be a perfection of that water right because it was a little bit off-site. It included the land that we're talking about, the subject property, and a little bit more. And further negotiations found that there was the water that was necessary for this development plus for providing water to other areas in the Metro District. And that did take it took a couple of years, but it was perfected in my recollection is about 2004. But the preliminary plan based itself on obtaining those rights, but could not state that because it had not been perfected. It subsequently has been perfected, and the water rights are owned by Meridian at this time. One other comment, the developer has already purchased not just the taps. So the wet water is there, the taps have been purchased, and so as of right now, when anything goes vertical, we have a right to go get and redeem the tap.
Thank you. At this point, we will move on to the public hearing part. So I believe I already called for, is there anyone in support of this application here to speak today in the audience and online in support? Okay. Hearing none, is there testimony or evidence in opposition of this application here today? Okay. You can come forward. Please state your name, introduce yourself, and you will have 3 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Kerry Jones, and I live in Latigo Trails. The biggest concern I just want to bring up today is water. So I just want to highlight there's some recent paperwork submitted, the water supply information summary from the developer. It states wells used for the upcoming development for filing 9. This filing added 2 additional wells to service this development in addition to the 1 well initially stated in the water resources report. According to the Colorado Well Permit Database, these 2 wells listed don't appear to be owned by Meridian Ranch. These were applied for, constructed by Woodman Hills Public Facilities Authority. According to the State Permit Office, these wells are still owned by Woodman Hills. And so while the applicant has provided a letter of commitment for servicing this development from Meridian Service Metro, there is no letter of commitment from Woodman Hills Metro District or any documentation showing the transfer of water rights or anything like that between these 2 water districts. Regardless, even if these wells were included and each well listed in the water resources report, Meridian Service Metro District is still overcommitted on water. The state in their application process uses a 100-year appropriation, while El Paso County has a more restrictive 300-year process. By removing wells listed in the water resources report marked future, so these wells don't exist, don't have permits. If you just subtract these future wells for the 300-year appropriation, that comes out to 1,507.5 acre feet per year that Meridian Service Metro can provide. The current existing and approved projects from Meridian Ranch is 648 acre feet per year. So there's a deficit already of 140.5 acre feet per year that Meridian Service cannot provide. So this is not a future problem. They don't have the water today. Meridian Service can't provide the water today. They need to fill their current commitments. While they're trying to build 2 new wells, those 2 wells aren't sufficient. The wells they're using to justify the sufficient water do not exist, do not have permits for, and do not appear to have plans to even be built. The El Paso County Water Master Plan states that the 300-year rule was implemented with the intent, at least in part, of encouraging land developers to bring in additional renewable water sources. I urge the Board of County Commissioners today, as the leaders elected by the people, to be good stewards of our county, to hold land developers and water districts accountable. I challenge you to abide by the intent of the El Paso County Water Master Plan and to force new developers to plan for additional renewable water sources that protect the current residents of the community. Please do not allow unchecked development to bleed our most precious resource dry with no recourse. While the developers may not have to see the consequences, people like myself, my neighbors, and my children will have to live with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? You can make your way forward, state your name, and you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Amanda Campbell. I'm currently a resident that lives in Latigo.
Can you pull the microphone down?
Sorry. I have 2 big concerns I would like to bring up. The first is everyone knows about the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. As they mentioned with their article, that was from November of 2021. There is currently a protected animal out there. It's the bald eagle. The bald eagle is very present in our community out there, and as well as the Preble jumping mouse. But I know that the bald eagle is not an endangered animal anymore, but they are federally protected by the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act and Migratory Bird Treaty Act. The developers did do an impact identification report, and they did not address the negative impacts or any mitigations that were going to be taken. As previously mentioned, the bald eagle is federally protected, and in fact, the impact indication report did state that the overall project of impact to wildlife communities would be positive. If we push out our federal bird, that's our national bird. If we push them out, they're not going to have anywhere to go, and they're going to be endangered again. Additionally, I know that according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, a habitat conservative plan and/or permits have not been submitted. And if they could provide that, that would be great, because as of yesterday at 10 o'clock at night, there was no proof of that, and that is a federal offense. Secondly, I would like to bring to the attention that was already talked about the cul-de-sac. This has been a cul-de-sac since the first house was developed on the road in 1992. That's 30 years. So if there's any consideration for having a grandfather, and it is a part dirt road and part paved road, but can we be grandfathered in for that? Because 31 years is 3 decades. That's a long time to be temporary. And I also understand that the traffic impact study that was done by the developers, they included assumed build-outs from several other major developments coming, including the rest of Meridian Ranch, the rest of Grandview Reserve, Waterbury developments, et cetera, but they don't incorporate the future build-out by these same developers. That includes filing number 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So yes, this might be 39 homes that we're talking about, but Eastonville is going to be impacted significantly. I understand it's been brought to our attention that they've hired a lawyer to push back to stop improvements on Eastonville and only have to pay the traffic impact fee. I drive Eastonville daily to take my young child to school. During these heavy rains, it's flooded out. It's heavily redded. It needs either more maintenance or it needs to be paved for the safety of the people in the community. So please take in consideration, it's not just this one that these guys are trying to develop. They're trying to develop 5 other ones additionally for over 200 plus homes. So Eastonville is significantly going to be factored. And then lastly, I would like to say that I am a Colorado native. I was born and raised in this exact area that this development is being considered, and now I'm raising my family. So not only is the water going to affect us eventually, the impact of infrastructure is, and the animals are. So please, please take into consideration what we brought up today and listen to us and hear us out and at least protect our animals and our future.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please make your way down, introduce yourself, and you will have 3 minutes.
Afternoon. My name is Terry Lynn Gosnell. I'm a resident in Latigo Trails. I live off of South Conestoga Trail, which is the cul-de-sac that we were referring to. So I guess I'm repeating a little bit, but I'll be quick. I've been talking to a lot of neighbors in the community off of the entry roads going into the community, which is Oregon Wagon, Silver Concha, Buffalo River Trail. All these roads are going to be impacted by construction traffic, new home traffic, etc. Half of the roads are paved, half of them are dirt. The dirt's not holding up to the traffic now. So then we add construction traffic onto it, and then they're just going to go even more dangerous than they are now. So also our community, to give you a picture, there's no sidewalks, it's just roads. So that's where we walk, that's where our kids ride their bikes. So we are very concerned about people coming to and from a job site, flying up and down the roads, et cetera, not just new residents being in the area. But to the previous speaker's point, we have been on that cul-de-sac. I personally have been there 22 years. There's other homes that have been there for 30 plus years. And I know the majority of homeowners on the road now bought their properties under the assumption that it was a cul-de-sac. So if we could maintain that, I think if you look at the plans, the developer could maybe look at that, maintain a road as a cul-de-sac, still get all their lots. It looks like they can even add one more lot in there if they just had the other road coming through. Just asking if that could be looked at. The other thing that would help our concerns is future development has a road going all the way to Eastonville. That's been mentioned. So Eastonville, if we could get them to go ahead now and put a construction entrance off of Eastonville, that would help alleviate a lot of the traffic coming in and out of the community through the established homes right now. And I didn't realize on Eastonville, when they referred to it as being maybe overestimated as far as the traffic goes, that is not the case. There is a massive increase of traffic coming from Meridian Ranch. The property, the ranch across from where they put the dog park in and the baseball fields is going to be subdivided into, I think it's 600 new homes, something along those lines. And kids are taking that. There's the Falcon High School right there. Just a couple of months ago, I helped a girl that had gone off, lost control of her vehicle on the washboard and gone off the road. So we have a lot of young drivers on that road. So it's not just a country road that is not being used very much. I've lived off those roads. I know the difference. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of this and see if we can work with the developers to alleviate some of the community's concerns, because it's not just 5 or 6 homes. When you expand the traffic concerns, then it goes throughout the whole development on that side. And that's more homes than just our little street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? None in the room. Are there any online? Okay. At this point, the applicant does have the opportunity to provide rebuttal to any of the issues or address anything that was brought up.
Tim McConnell again. I'll try to keep this short. Mr. James mentioned the water side. We do have finding sufficiency, say, from the county and the state at this point in time. Wet water, as the Meridian Services Metropolitan District has the water and the taps at this point in time. I say they've already been paid for, as was mentioned previously. So we do have findings of sufficiency for the water on this final plat for filing number 9. Regards to the wildlife, I think Kylie may have sent you a supplemental document that we put together, our environmental consultant put together today, earlier today, in response to Ms. Campbell's comments that came in day before yesterday or yesterday. So there are no threatened or endangered species. She mentioned Preble's meadow jumping mouse. There is some of that along Black Squirrel Creek up on the far north end of the development, north of Latigo Boulevard. not an issue on this development. There aren't even any trees on this site, so there's no raptors nesting in trees on the site or within a half a mile of the property at this point in time. The traffic that we mentioned, Eastonville, that was brought up as well. Gilbert can address this too, but the county has Eastonville Road under design, and that's partly where the $165,000 that's going to be contributed from this filing will go to paying for part of those improvements. I think the county plans to phase those improvements coming up from the south end down by the school and expand Eastonville, get it paved. It's currently a deficient roadway. I think everybody knows that now. See, gets washed over with the recent rains that we've had, washboarding, and everything else, but that will be improved going forward. I say maybe Gilbert can address that a little further. Construction traffic. I don't know if anything much we can do about that other than when they do get under construction, notifying the contractors to slow down, notify county code enforcement and the sheriff's office. Obviously something to be concerned about, but if cutting in a temporary construction road opens up a whole nother can of worms for erosion control, utility extensions, and other things for us on that end too, if we were to do that to Eastonville. And then other cut through traffic, people coming in and out of the neighborhood using that construction entrance as opposed to the regular county dedicated roadways at this point in time. I think that's really it. If you have any other questions for myself or Bob, we'd be glad to try to answer them at this point.
Are there any questions from commissioners? Okay. At this point, we'll declare the public hearing portion of this closed. And commissioners, do we have any further discussions or questions of staff? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, just because it was brought up, the applicant stated it, but I'd like to have our staff state it again. So did they meet the 300 water rule? And then are there any legal issues related to the our national emblem?
Mr. Chair, Lori Seago, or Madam Chair, and Commissioner Gonzalez, sorry. Lori Seago, Senior Assistant County Attorney. I can't address the bald eagle question at this point. I don't know. I'm not familiar with laws regarding with the bald eagle. If you want to take a recess, I'm happy to research that for you quickly, but I can't answer that. But I can address the water question for you. And I appreciate Mr. Jones's comments. They certainly caused me to go back and take another look at the documentation that was provided by both the applicant and the district. And if I can have the overhead, I'm happy to briefly walk you through my analysis and the basis for my recommendation that the board find that the water supply is sufficient to serve this development. So the document I have here is a water resources report provided by the Meridian Service Metropolitan District. It is publicly available on eDARP under this application. And this first table here demonstrates the current water commitments that Meridian Service has to serve existing or pending development. And I've highlighted the figures that I focused on. So this figure here, 1751, that's 1,751 acre feet per year that the district is currently committed to provide to existing development. If you add the 12 acre feet that would be required by this filing that's in front of you today, that results in 1,763 acre feet per year that the district would be required to supply to its customers. On the next page, the district has provided a table that shows their existing and available water rights, along with a summary of the wells that they have used to provide those water rights. This final column, clear over here to the right, applies El Paso County's 300-year water rule to those water rights in terms of how they're divided up annually. And so if you look at the hash marks here, those are the rows that I added up to come up with a recommendation for sufficiency. The reason that I did not include, so I included this total, and this total for these four ranches. The reason that under Guthrie Ranch, I did not include these two is that because on the next page, the district asked that they not be included for a determination of sufficiency. So I took those figures out and did not include them in the total amount. They are included in this table. So this table does show 2,058 acre feet per year of decreed water rights or appropriated water rights that the district owns and controls and would have available to serve development. If you take those two out, though, you come up with this figure of 1,911 acre feet per year, again, on a 300-year basis that they would have available to serve development. And because that 1,911 is greater than the 1,763 on the previous page, I was comfortable in recommending that the district has sufficient water supply to serve this development. I understand Mr. Jones's concern that some of these wells have not yet been drilled. However, that's not something that I typically take into account. I want to compare it to a subdivision that might come to you where the lots are on individual wells. Typically, those wells aren't in place either because the developer wants to ensure that the project is approved, I assume, before they go to the expense of drilling wells on the individual lots. So the fact that the wells aren't there doesn't typically factor into my analysis as to whether the water supply is sufficient. They own the water and they have the right to access that water. They do still need to go to the state and get that well permit if they want to access that additional water that they're not yet withdrawing. But again, I don't look at that in terms of sufficient water supply. Any questions for me?
And Ms. Sego, to clarify, you use this same process in every assessment of water sufficiency application?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I don't know if we can maybe take that break. I would want legal advice that is like, based on all the information we have relevant to the bald eagle, we are comfortable moving forward with approval if that's what the decision is. But I would like a statement of some sort other than that we don't know before I vote on this.
We take a break to get that. Is it feasible to find the information we would need to answer Commissioner Gonzalez's question in a short break?
We'll do our best.
Okay. Let's take a break until 2:05.
Sure.
It's just over 10 minutes.
Okay.
We're in recess. All right, welcome back to order, Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting for Tuesday, June 6th. We are on item number 5A, which was pulled up off of original item number 4A, and we had staff ready to answer a specific question from Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Lori Seago again. So I've had an opportunity to do some quick legal research. I've also been provided with what is titled a technical memorandum from the applicant, created on behalf of the or at the applicant's request. It's from a company called Ecosystem Services, and it purports to address some of the written objections to this application based on the possible presence of bald eagles and Preble's meadow jumping mouse. So I've had a chance to peruse this, and it states in this report that there are no trees on site, that there are no known nesting sites on this particular site for bald eagles, and that federal law, while federal law does prohibit the taking of bald eagles in a variety of ways, and taking it does have a variety of interpretations, that because they are not present on site, that there is no potential violation under those laws. Based on the legal research that we had an opportunity to do on the break, the county attorney's office is comfortable with that conclusion, that approval of this application would not violate federal law, understanding that one of the opponents of this application did provide photos of a bald eagle nest site. Apparently, and I'm taking this again from the report, the location of that bald eagle nest site was not provided. There is a state GIS website that was consulted by this company, and it states that the closest known nest site is about 18 miles away for bald eagles. So based on the information that we have in front of us today, again, the county attorney's office is comfortable that there's no risk here that federal law will be violated. We will ensure that this report is uploaded to EDARP so that it can become a matter of public record, because again, it is dated today in response to written comments received. Anything further I can address?
Commissioner Gonzalez, does that answer your question for now? Are there any other further questions for staff from commissioners? Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. I just want to quickly address, because there were some comments around traffic and road and Eastonville. It sounded like perhaps Gilbert was going to give a little bit of an update on what is going on there. Some of the comments regarded additional developments. So if we could just kind of get some clarification, I think I understand, but want to have this on the record too, that each one of each project is evaluated for its potential traffic impact, and that's what the fees are related to. So subsequent developments will also have to contribute for their impact on these roads, and just a little bit of what's going on with that Eastonville situation.
Yes, ma'am. With each future filings, they will submit a traffic study, and they will identify their proportional impact and potential escrow on that. Right now, the county is doing an Eastonville Road project. The county has set up a website regarding that project. If you guys were interested in looking into it and what studies have been provided or where they are at this stage, the website is eastonvilleroad.com. And the project is being broken up into two phases. Phase one was from Snafflebit Road to Rex Road for the improvement on that section. Later on, phase two is broken up into two segments. One's further south of Snafflebit going all the way down to Meridian. And the second part is from the Rex Road up to Latigo Boulevard improvement. I know that the Grandview subdivision that's to the east of Eastonville, I believe some of their conditions is to do some road improvements on Eastonville. It all depends on the timing between the county's project of that to construct that road, or if Grandview comes in first, and then that will get a portion of those will get constructed at that point. And then so the Initially, when I did review this project, I required that for the development to improve the Eastonville Road all the way down to Rex Road along there portion, and that did escalate up to the county attorney's office, and negotiations between the county attorney's office and county engineer took place, and that's how we came up with the escrow amount. I mean, at this point, it probably didn't really make sense to fully improve the segment of road along their frontage, so which would mean that you'd end up having like a section of roadway that's paved, that's gonna, and then you'd have on the north part and the south part of it that would remain unpaved. So maintenance would probably be a little bit of a headache if you're having two different equipments going in and just a little sections that are improved at this point. So I think that's how we came up with the escrow portion of on having for the proportional, so that once the county does come in, then it'll be a little bit more of a continuous or consistent improvement that the county would control. And I'm not sure if there's any other questions, or is that sufficient?
That is sufficient. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Geithner mentioned to me that there was a letter from Division of Wildlife stating that there were no, I guess it was animal impacts in this area, and I guess that was presented, and I just missed it. So whoever has that document, if it would be okay to bring it up and just show it again, I just want to see it. Who had it?
I believe it was part of the original staff presentation.
I just missed it when it was presented, so I'd like to see it.
Lori Segal, County Attorney's Office. Again, this is EDARP, the county's public development application system, and that's the comment that was provided in November of 21 by U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
All right, thank you very much.
Are there any further questions from commissioners? Okay, I'll bring it up here for discussion. Actually, any Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So as we often do, though, I guess I will request that we have the criteria back up on the screen. As I often do, especially when we have guests and folks that are here, it's so important that we all understand the process, how this hearing process works, what we use to make these decisions. So the criteria that are here, this is what we use to make the decision. We compare the application to the criteria and decide whether or not it's been met. If it's met, that's an approval. And if it's not met, then that's the possibility when we get to a disapproval situation. So I wanted to mention a couple of things. One is I live in Falcon. I live in Meridian Ranch. So the concerns, I do understand, very familiar with Eastonville. I too drive it nearly daily. So that's why I wanted to have that clarification of the kind of improvements that will be made. Oftentimes we think about the road and the condition is today, but not understanding that, you know, what improvements are coming. So I hope that was helpful. So it's very, I'm looking at this criteria, I think that this plan has met this criteria. So I'm going to go ahead and move for approval on this item. And then I'll have a couple more comments if there's someone who wants to
I'll second.
Okay, so I just wanted to point out that basically, in terms of the water sufficiency, I appreciate very much the thorough going through of, how it is that we get to that, the 300-year water rule, the explanation of the wells. I hope that was also helpful to those who are here in concern of this is the typical way that we approve that for the exact reason wells are very expensive to drill. And so if we expected that those wells would be drilled prior to, it would be folks like me who live in Meridian Ranch that would be paying for all of the drilling of these new wells before we even have the customers to serve. So it's about balance and making sure that we're not putting extreme burdens before they're necessary. But the water sufficiency has clearly been met in this case, so again, that's part of the criteria here that we've met. So for all of those reasons, I think we've done a good job of mitigating the impacts that we've talked about, meeting the criteria. And I would be happy to continue having conversations about any of the questions about roads and how those things are going to move going forward. But I believe that this is a project that clearly meets the criteria and therefore is a yes vote from me for sure.
Are there any further comments? Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Commissioner Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 with Commissioner Williams excused. Thank you again to those of you who came out today and passionately shared your thoughts. I think we did our due diligence on everybody's part. Thank you for being a part of it. Okay, item number 4B, which is now item 5B. It appears that there was actually not any public comment on that. I'm going to call for it one more time for item 4B. Was there anyone here to speak on that item? Okay. In that case, we do not need to move forward with an entire hearing on that. So I will entertain a motion for approval of that item.
Move to approve item 5B.
Second.
That has been moved and seconded. And to clarify, it was originally item 4B. It is now item 5B. Thank you for clarifying that in the motion. And I will call the roll. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 4-0 with Commissioner Williams excused. That brings us to item number 6.
Item number 6 is department and committee reports and non-action items, and there are none.
Item 7.
Item 7 is the addendum, and there is no addendum.
Item 8.
Item 8 is executive session, and there is no request for an executive session.
We are adjourned.